Today I want to talk to you about grief. And not grief as a bad thing, but grief as how you can change your narrative also around grief. And I'm going to give a straight example. I'm not going to talk about my dad because I think grieving a person is, or like a parent, in this specific case, I haven't unlocked it yet. And I think that the beauty of this is that it can expand you in ways you never knew you could. Like I have this renewed sense of appreciation and of love for my friends, for my mom, for my brother, for life in general. And at the same time, it's also like, well, everything is fleeting. Not everything is infinite. We're not going to be here forever and all of these kinds of thoughts, which is great, huh? But I was just more thinking of a, let's say, more practical example, which is grieving relationships and grieving, for example, a business or an idea or a project. And I came to realize over the past 3 weeks of me launching this playground, when I tell you I learned so much from this launch, failed launch, I've learned so much from it than I've learned in the past year of doing therapy, is insane. It has revealed so much about who it is that I don't want to become, what it is that I do not want to repeat, the people that I do not want to work with anymore, the actions that I'm not supposed to be taking when I want to create something. It taught me about how it is that I actually create and how to honor that. And still, I think that I'm still digesting all the learnings because it is wild. But anyways, I was thinking about this because I had my dance school for 6.5 years, 7 years. I started in January 2019. I closed it in April 2025. So it's a good 6 years, okay? And I remember when I started, I never had a space for myself. I rented multiple space and it was more of a nomad sort of school. I've done in-person events, I've done online workshops, I've survived COVID, I created camps, like 7 camps, and I brought so many people to Ghana. I created 4 weekenders, I've worked with brands as a movement director, but also dance coach, and just liberating a lot of bundas over the span of 6.5 years. C'est quoi, 2019, donc ça me fait 2020. Ouais, we're gonna say 6.5 years, because I actually started back in 2018. Not on a regular basis, but more on a monthly basis anyways. So I've done that for 6.5 years. I've never thought that this would become what it became. For me, it was more about, all right, I'm just going to teach classes, just bring people together, bring some enjoyment into people's lives. And at some point, I will have a physical space. And that physical space came about around 23. So maybe 4 years later, I was like, I just want to have my fucking space, man. I'm tired of being evicted from spaces, from people telling me that I make too much noise, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, all right, let's just start investing in there. Obviously, Amsterdam is quite expensive. And even though I could have afforded it, doing it by myself was too hard in terms of, first, financial expenses. But also it's like, ça va. I'm used to doing everything by myself. It's nice to also have like a partner or, un corps enseignant, like people who would teach with you. And obviously me being me, I'm very picky about the people that I want to work with. And life has a way of showing you who to trust and who to not and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, at some point, I think I was in the process of literally getting a space, for a month and a half, 2 months. I've had the business plan, I've shared it, they were on board, and ultimately they said, yeah, we're not going to do it because we'd rather have offices. Make it make sense. It's okay, c'est pas grave. I still kept looking, and yeah, 2025 happened, 25 happened the way it happened, and I fucked off, and I was like, all right, let's just close everything, because with time also you realize that you feel less and less aligned maybe with what it is that you want to be doing. And I think if I look back at it, I was very tired of carrying for it by myself. And it's still a process for me to just Find partners, delegate, or just find the right person. I think this is very important. It's just like also finding a right partner. And I think maybe unconsciously I knew that I wasn't necessarily not ready, but I didn't want to put my priority into finding a partner because I knew eventually that I would leave the Netherlands. So maybe my body was already like, dude, you know you're not going to stay here forever, so what's the point of really investing? And it's been already, I would say, a year and a half, 2, that I was like, I want to go to fucking Sardinia. So, anyways, long story short, I closed the company in the midst of 2025. I'm coming next to a school. This is terrible. I didn't know that kids could be that loud. And I'm truly hoping that you hear what I say, because this is madness. And wesh, mais c'est quoi? C'est fucking slaughterhouse? C'est quoi ça? Bref, 2025, I closed the dance school because, you know, when you lose a parent, you're like, yeah, fuck this shit. I don't have it in me to show up. I don't have it in me to just keep doing and pretending whilst I'm literally going through the biggest, most transformational shit ever. And also because I had already a loss of a parent, being evicted, being sick, not knowing what I had, and I was like, franchement, I can't. I don't want to do this. So I closed it, but at the same time, I never really said goodbye to this dream, said goodbye to the community I created. It was all, let's just, okay, we close and we get the fuck out. Let's just keep moving, because I'm very good at alchemizing life situations, finding the positive and everything, and just like, all right, let's just keep moving. We don't have time. I'm gonna sneeze. Hoopla, I'm not gonna sneeze. There's not enough light. And so recently with this launch, I think what made it such a big, massive success of failures is that I went back again to the person that I was before and to how I was doing things, which was basically moving from a place of go, 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 sort of like energy. I have to prove things. I have to be the first to do these kinds of things. And I realized that I was very competitive. And once I asked my mom, how the fuck am I that competitive? And she was like, well, when you guys were kids, I taught you to be the first, to always arrive, first of your class, basically. We were very conscientious and very smart kids, still are. But also there was this sense of competition that was instilled in us. And for me, it was always like, I have 50 steps ahead of everyone, at least around me and in my industry. And so for me, it was like, I have to keep that standard. I have to make sure that the transformation is like out of this world. I have to be over-delivering. I have to be caring for everything and everyone. And even in the way I approached bringing up about my experiences in my workshops, I have my own ways. And obviously, the student is always the priority, but I always made it so that the student only arrives, just, drops their suitcases, comes in, have fun, and no questions asked. Like, I would literally think of all the questions that people could ask themselves, and I would answer them. This is the amount of, or this is the level of detail-oriented, conscientious, whatever word it is, that I was dealing with. And this is also the level of pressure I was putting myself. And even though maybe back at the time I didn't see it, because I was so I'm generous like that, and I love, j'aime bien mettre les gens bien. So this is how we say it in French. I really love to make sure that people around me are spoiled, whether my friends or my family or even fucking random people, and my students most specifically here, because they are the ones who I find it so precious that they just, take their time, commit, are engaging, contribute, bring their own people to class, to workshops, to events. It's like it's a mutual exchange, right? But I think in my head I've never saw it as that. I've always saw it as like, oh my god, they're doing something for me. I need to double down on on me over giving and over pouring. And as much as it is beautiful, and as much as I've always done it from the heart, I know a side of me also did it to make sure that we are even in a way, you know. And obviously it is not sustainable to have a business like that, or even to rule your life like this. I realized how this was already something that was very present in my relationships and the dynamics of my relationships altogether. And then also you put that onto a business, like no one, like, I mean, I am flabbergasted at how I've done this for 34 years and not having a fucking burnout, okay? So nothing to be proud of. I'm not even holding a badge of honor of like, oh my god, yes, I've made it, I'm independent, I can handle everything great, but I don't want to do that anymore. And so coming back to the launch of the last 3 weeks, I went back to really just doing similar things I was doing before, and my body was just like, I don't want to fucking do it. And in the midst of all of that, seeing this as now I see it more as a lesson. Obviously, in hindsight, it's just like blessings in disguise, and I'm so happy this happened in just 3 weeks and not like another 3 months of just going like this. But at the same time, it was also like a reminder of, okay, we're 35, we still don't know what we want to be doing. And truth be told, I've only been exploring for the past 3-4 months, because that's the level of energy that I'm starting to have again, and expanding my capacity and everything. And so I think we're gonna go through this street because there is some sun and we see what happens. But yeah, these last 3 weeks anyways just also reminded me that the dream that I had of having my own space, of having my own school and bringing people in there, like, I swear to you, there was this space in East. It used to be, I think, a coffee place / bar / whatever. But basically, I went there. I used to go there I think I just went there a couple of times. But it was such a great, one of the most beautiful memories I've had, because we're just gonna go through that way. I remember what I was wearing. I had this white dress and I had my short hair, and then I went with a friend of mine and we went to do salsa. So there was a class, and then it was, I think, a Sunday afternoon, there was a class, and then there was a social. So everybody could dance together. And so for me, it was such a great memory because it was in the sun, there was the water next to it, there was a bit of sand sort of situation. And then people were also a bit barefoot in fucking Amsterdam. I was like, really, really super nice memory. And I was also with a really good friend of mine. So all in all, I was like, mais c'est génial. And so when I saw this space being online during my search for a place, I was like, mais ça c'est chambé. This is it. This is my space. And because I knew the space upside down, like from plutôt inside out, I already visualized myself being there and just bringing people in and blah, blah, blah. And truth be told, this was the most expensive space I found. I think the rent was 10,000 euros a month. And I was like, ooh la la. First of all, I cannot afford that. But at the same time, I was like, I know so many people that would love to be there. I know so many other people who could rent the space out. And that's what I thought would become a sort of dance school. Turned out to be like what I'm building now also, the home of enjoyment. But I didn't know it back then. And obviously, me being me, I didn't have the people, or like the right people to do that with. I had a partner, we investigated, we started also, reaching out to people, but I can understand that when you have your own business and you have expenses and life and whatever, you're not always willing to invest a high rent, a high amount of money when you want to rent something. And this taught me to really just, again, choose people who see the vision, who wants to contribute to the vision, and be in that same position of like, I also want to receive, and I just don't want to hold again and carry and handle everything. I also want partners, people who want to walk with me, not behind me, but also who want to walk with me and who also want to push me, So a great lesson in here. And at the same time, again, going back to these 3 weeks, it was also the reminder of that, the reminder of you didn't get to build it in Amsterdam, which essentially, as I said, I didn't want to stay in the country for ever, and I knew that eventually I would leave. But you're human. When you go through major life events and you don't really take the time to process everything or to digest everything, when you have a tendency to just brush it off and move on and be like, all right, I don't care, it's not going to be this space, it's not going to be this country, it's going to be somewhere else. And when you live like that for so long, and now you're in a space sort of transition where you have the time, where you're forced also to take the time because your body is screaming, you cannot help but wonder, what if, And even though I have zero regrets, I still feel like I'm grieving that dance school. I'm grieving the idea of what it could have been. It's just like a relationship, right? When you break up with someone where the love is still there, you cannot help but imagine what it could have been. And this is where I'm at the moment with this dance school. Obviously, it's not consuming me. I'm not depressing and be like, oh my God, pas du tout, because let's say the upscale of that is that you get to make it something else. So for me, when my mom was like, yeah, but you're grieving, it's normal. And then I was like, I don't really like the word grieving, because the dream hasn't died. The dream is just evolving. And when you decide also, when you make the choice to see things from a different angle, like there's the angle of grief, potentially, probably, definitely, but there's also the angle of, but it can still happen. I can still make it happen. And I'm going to make it happen with this new chapter, with this new version of me, with this renewed sense of appreciation, preciousness, with the skills that I've acquired along the way, blah, 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 blah. And I think that seeing it this way now, because I don't want to see it as I'm grieving it, because then it's like you're in the past, which is great, but the past is also sometimes source of anger, of sadness, of maybe regrets or things that you have left unsaid, whilst being in the present now and deciding again, making the choice to see it as like, it's not dead. It's just having another, I'm just letting it simmer a bit more and maybe a bit longer, and it's evolving. And it even made me realize that everything that we do in life, and because I'm seeing all of these, reset your life in 90 days and everything, and I'm like, is this really a reset? Or is this just a continuation? Because if you always see it as reset and as restarting and burning everything down and you start everything again, it's like, it is beautiful because there's, this renewed sense of, vas-y. When you were a kid, when you just draw and you have this la gomme, the eraser, you can just erase and then just do it again, right? But I like to think that we never really erase anything. We're just continuing from where we left it off, And obviously some things you really just have to put a final point, I think, to the conversation, to the drawing and finish the thing. But essentially you're just continuing. Like if you finish the drawing, you start a new one, but you're still continuing the activity of drawing. And I think that life is also like this. And maybe it puts less pressure when you decide to continue things or when you decide to restart. Maybe like when you decide to restart, also it puts a bit less, or it gives you even more audacity or courage or fearlessness or anything. And I guess that the point of my voice memo today of this episode is just to really decide and make a choice over how it is that you how it is that you see things, and that there's always another way, that there's always another angle, that there's always a new point of entry or a new point of continuation, and that is just another experience stacking up onto the other. And seeing it this way, at least for me, helps me accept a lot more things and helps me see them for how they are versus just overthinking things and overanalyzing and having less pressure, and just really seeing everything as like, man, this is part of life. Life is really just a set of experiences and encounters and meetings, and nothing is right or nothing is wrong. I think it's just everything adds up to one another, and then at the end, when you go back up and you get to meet your creator, you're just like, hey, that's what I've been doing, that's what I've been learning, let's have a chat. This is really how I see it. It's like when he takes me back, I'm just gonna have this massive tea party with him where I'm gonna eat cake, or I'm gonna have tea, or I'm gonna have delicious food, and we're just gonna talk, we're just gonna chat. I'm just gonna tell him, hey, this is what I've been doing, this is what I've been experiencing, this is where I fucked up, I'm not gonna lie, but I have no regrets, because you showed me still the path that I am supposed to be following. And just a beautiful, beautiful exchange, and voilà quoi.